Okay, so in this video, what we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at adding the Tektites. And so there's an orange Tektite and a blue Tektite. And so they have some different logic than what we're used to seeing at this point. They generally have to stay within the screen, but they can go even where there's not other, where there's obstacles or not. So they can jump around the screen. They can go off the screen, but they generally want to stay within the screen. And so when ours goes off the screen, we'll actually tell it to come back onto the screen. So that's what we're going to be doing this video. So let's just go and get straight to it. So your code currently looks like this. And so what we want to do is, the first thing we want to do is in our maps edited, well, I guess that's not the first thing we want to do. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and look at draw game objects. Okay, so I think this is where we're at. Yep. So here, if it's an enemy, if it's enemy type 1 or 3, if it's enemy type 2. Okay, and so now we're just going to add this next enemy type, which is going to be our Tektites. And so how do we know what enemy types are which? Well, I kind of loosely defined, or I didn't loosely, I definitely defined them right here. So this may not be in your maps file, but I will put it in there. And so here we have the type, which is just the number, and then the name over here. And then this was some bookkeeping I was keeping, but most of this works now. I was just doing that as I was developing these out. So I'll clean this up and I'll put it into the file. So what we care about is this, if it's an enemy, and then so we're gonna go from there. Okay, so go ahead and get this to the right. Okay, so if it's a 1 or a 3, 2. Okay, so a lot of this is going to be very similar to stuff that we already have, but in some ways it's not. So we're just going to do it straight from scratch. So we're just going to say if game objects at I dot enemy type, let's see here, dot enemy type is equal to, let's see here, 4, or enemy type is equal to 5. Okay, so we always have the counter for the game object that helps us keep track of our animations and stuff like that. So and so here we're going to say if the counter goes greater than 14, so if we've had 15 cycles, so if game objects at I.counter is greater than or equal to 14, and we have not jumped yet, so we're going to say game objects at I.jumping, so they have not jumped. Okay. And so if this is the case, we're going to increase the frame. So we're going to say game, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this bit because a lot of that. So frame plus plus game objects.counter is equal to 0, and then if game objects.frame is greater than 1, we only have 2 frames, so 0 and 1. So if it's greater than 1, then we want to kick that game objects.frame back to 0. Okay. All right. So here, the jump rate is kind of random. Okay, and so it doesn't jump like every free chance it gets. Sometimes it may sit there and kind of not jump for a few minutes, so a few moments, not minutes. So we're just going to create some kind of chance, and this is going to be math.floor math.random times 4. And here we're going to say if chance is equal to 0 and the game objects at I.frame is equal to 1, so they're in the jumping position, and game objects at I.counter is equal to 13. And they have not jumped. So they have not jumped, so we're going to put a exclam right there. So if all these things are true, okay, so this random number has hit 0. They're on the last frame of their animation, meaning that they are about to jump up, okay? On this frame of their animation is the one that they jump from, okay? And so that's why we check to see if it is 1. This is going to check if it is at the right before the counter, it goes to the next frame, because we want that animation frame to have some time to be displayed, because if this counter were 0, we could go from a pre-jump frame to a jump frame for one cycle, and then it goes into a jump. So this is going to allow us to get that second image displayed for the length of its duration. And then this is just going to check to see if it has not jumped yet. Okay, so if all those things are true, then we could commence some jumping. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that jumping to true. Okay, and then we're going to create some variables. Okay, so we need directions as to where we're jumping and how high and stuff like that. Max height, the fall amount. There's just quite a bit that goes into this jump. Okay, so here we're just going to say let xdir for direction equal math.floor Okay, so we're actually going to copy this because we're going to use this. So this is going to be the y direction. And that's all the same. Then we're going to use the x distance. And so this is going to be times 24. And then we're going to add 32 to it so that it has at least a minimum jumping distance. Okay. And this is going to be the y distance. This is going to be 24, and then we'll just say plus 16. Now, I played around with these numbers for a little bit, trying to get the jump behavior to be somewhat right, but there could be some play left in those numbers that would make it look a whole lot more like retail. max height is going to be equal to math dot, oh, it's already there. It's going to be equal to math dot floor, and then this is going to be times 32. And then this is going to be a minimum of 8. Okay. And then fall amount is going to be basically the same thing. So this is going to be fall amount. So after it reaches its max height, how far does it fall? And so this is going to be 32, and this is going to be a plus 8 as well. So this is probably, these two are probably the ones you want to pay closer attention to if you're trying to get it a lot more like retail. But it looks pretty good to me. So I just stopped there. And so game objects at I dot x is less than 40. Okay, so we're right here, we're checking the sides of the screen. Okay. And so here we're going to say xdir is equal to 1. So we know that the direction we want to face is going the opposite direction if this is the case. Okay. So this helps us stay within the screen. Okay. And that's all we're doing here. So I'm just going to copy this, and we have another side of the screen to check. And so if it is greater than 200, the x direction is 0. All right, and then here we're going to say if the y is less than 40, y direction is equal to 1. And then we're going to say max height minus equals 10. So we kind of take a little bit off this max height that we figured up here so that it starts to stay within the bounds of the screen. Okay, and then likewise, we're just going to have another if statement. And so we're going to have this if statement, and this y direction is going to be 0. And this is going to say if it is greater than 200. And then this is going to be a plus equals 10. Okay, so that looks good. And then so what we want to do from here is we actually want to change the next x and next y of our object. So here we got all these variables, and now we want them to be applied to our current object. So we're going to say, so here we're going to say game objects at I dot, I'm just going to copy this again because I'm going to be using it a whole lot. Jump height now we may not have these variables already defined, so we'll have to look at that. So if jump height, and then we're going to set it equal to the max height. Okay, and then we're going to say fall amount is equal to fall amount. Here, reach jump height. So and then we're just going to set that equal to false because it has not yet. It hasn't even happened. Then we're going to say jump dir, and then this is going to be equal to x direction. All right. So all right. And so now we're just going to check our x direction and give it its next x and next y. So here we're going to say if xdir is equal to 0, we're going to say game objects at I dot next x is equal to game objects at I dot x minus x dist Okay. And so here, just going to copy this, try and do it as quickly as possible. This should just be an else. And then this is going to say next x is equal to x plus x dist. All right. And so here we're going to do pretty much the same. So we're going to say if y direction is equal to 0, then we're going to say game objects at I dot next y is equal to math.floor game objects at I dot y. Now, why do we do this? Well, sometimes we are doing a fractional, we are subtracting fractionally from the y value. So we need to make sure that it is the floor value for the next y. And so that's all we're doing there. Okay, and then so this is going to be an else statement. So we're just going to say and then this is going to be minus. Okay, perfect. And so what we want to do now is this is going to be what we're doing is we're checking to see if the next y is equal to the next x. Okay, so they're in the same kind of so we're checking to see if the mod of next y is equal to the mod of next x. And so let's go ahead and do that. So here we're going to say if if game objects at I dot next y mod 2 is equal to next x. And so we're basically seeing if they are both even numbers. And if they're not, we're going to subtract from the next y to get them evenly distributed, if that makes sense. The explanation was not a good explanation. But that's, honestly, I wrote this code. I wrote this code many months ago. It's been easily 6 months now, maybe even more. And so I remember this just gets the next y and the next x like within even numbers, and so the next the next things will happen smoother. There was some glitches, and so this solved that glitch. All right. So this is all the chance stuff, okay? So that was that chance statement, all of it. And so now, after that, so the chance statement has ended. I'll just do it from here with this right here. And so right below that, we're just going to start a new if statement that says if game objects at I.jump height is greater than 0, and we have not reached the jump height, and we are jumping. And I'm going to be using this more often too. If that's the case, then we are going to advance our y's and our jump height. Okay, so here we're just going to say game object of y is minus equals 1.3. And see, we're adding that fractional or that decimal value, subtracting the decimal value to the y. And so that's why we use that map.floor up above. And so here we say jump height minus equals 1. And then down below we're going to have an else statement. And then we're going to say game objects dot reach jump height is equal to true. Okay, so if these if this is no longer true, then this must be true, and so we're going to set this to true. And then, so that's that. And then we're going to say if game objects at I dot reach jump height and game objects at I dot fall amount is greater than or equal to 0. I guess we should just say greater than, but I'll keep it as is for now. So then we're just going to decrement our fall amount. And we're going to say game objects at I dot y plus equals 1.3. Okay, so that does that. And so now we got to see if we're jumping. And if we're jumping, we're going to start adding to our x direction. And so here we're just going to say if we're going to say if the direction is to the left, we're going to subtract. Let me go ahead and get this in the center of the screen. If the direction jumped-er is equal to 0, then we're going to say game objects at I dot x minus equals 1.5. Now these numbers you can play with as well, 1.3 and 1.5, just by eyeballing it. You know, I did no formal measurements or anything, but by eyeballing it, they looked like they fit. Okay, but you know, you may look at it and say that doesn't look quite right. And so if that's the case, you know, go back and change it. So here we're going to see if the fall amount is less than 0. So if the fall amount is less than 0, we no longer need to fall, or the jumping is no longer there. So so here we're just going to set jumping equal to false. Okay, and so that takes care of that if statement. And so what we want to do now is we want to actually draw those images. Okay, so we have two different types of images to draw. So the first one is game objects at I dot enemy type is equal to 4. And then so if the frame is equal to 0, we're going to draw an image. I'm just going to pull this up from below, and I'm going to change some numbers. So this is going to be, we're going to be pulling from the enemy sprite sheet. This enemy is located at 240, 180, and it has some dimensions of 16 and 14. And then, so this is going to be, because we can't draw, they won't draw to fractional, so they won't draw to the screen at 14.2 and for the x value and 15.5 for the y value. It has to be whole numbers, but we are subtracting fractional numbers, decimal numbers. We need to just throw a math.floor around it. Okay. And then we'll do the same thing for the y. And then 16 and 14 will keep the same dimensions. And that's done. And so here, this is just going to, we'll copy this. And then this is going to be, should be just an else, but we'll just keep it like it is written already. This is going to be 280 or 210. The dimensions are the same. Okay. So we're going to just copy this whole statement. And this is going to be if it is 5. Okay. And then if it's 5, it's 270, 180. So this is just going up by 30, 270. 270, and everything else is the same. Okay, so we just have a few more statements here. So this is an if, and so I'm not even sure if we're really doing the needs to bounce yet. Let's just go ahead and see if this works. Okay, now there may be some changes that we need to make here. For instance, we have needs to bounce, needs to shoot. Okay, I see this is our file from our last. So it doesn't look like we have a lot of the properties we need. And so what properties do we need? Well, we need all these that we set up here. So jump height, fall amount, jump direction, next x, next y, reach jump height. So that's quite a bit. Okay, so I'm just going to, pop over here. And so the first one we need to do is this dot jump height, this dot fall amount, this dot reached, this dot jump direction. Okay, so one thing, this would actually work, but we're just going to set that to false as the default value. And so we have a next x and a next y, and so that is currently already in our code, and I do not see any other issues with this. Okay, so the next thing we need to do with this map file is go to map 119. Okay, and so I'm just going to go down here to 119. And so 119, we have this enemy that appears on the screen, and go ahead and change this enemy type and just set it to 4 or 5. Those are the two things that we just did. So I'm going to set mine to 4. And I'm going to see if we have a Tektite on the screen. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to come back over here to my current code, and I'm going to save and run. And it looks like he is working. He hit me. He is doing his animation. Now, of course, there are some things that we need to add to this. But as far as this enemy goes, he should go back onto the screen after that animation sequence, and he does. Okay, so as far as this goes, we could go ahead and test the blue one just to make sure. So I'm going to go to here and set this one equal to 5 and save it and reload my page. And he is blue. So this looks like a go. It looks like it's good. I like what we've done here, and I think we'll call this a video. And I know it's been a long time since I have made any videos for Legend of Zelda, but I'm trying to kind of keep both projects in view. So my Street Fighter 2 project, which you should probably check out if you have not, and then also this project. I'm going to keep on doing this project for as long as I have material currently available. And honestly, I pretty much have a full game playthrough up through the first dungeon. So there's, the only thing after that is just like dungeon content creation for dungeons 2 through 8. So pretty much the game is fleshed out. So I'll do that about a video or so a week, along with my Street Fighter 2 video, and we'll see how far we can get. So if you like this, if you want to see more of this, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. Those subscriptions and the likes mean a whole lot, even though I gain nothing through this channel. It's not monetized in any way by me, and so I make $0 on this channel. I just enjoy game programming, and it gets me excited when other people are excited about the projects that I am making. So go ahead and like, subscribe, comment on things that you've noticed that you think should be different. Comment on things that you wish we would implement next, and I'll do my best to abide. So I will see y'all later.